Nico Hulkenberg's dramatic podium at Silverstone was nothing short of a showstopper, and it has everyone asking the same question. Should Red Bull be taking him seriously as an option for a seat in 2026? Now, we all are aware that Hulkenberg is heavily committed to Audi's F1 foray. But if Red Bull comes knocking, is this the perfect career opportunity for the German driver at this stage of his career? Is this dream scenario something that we can expect to become a reality? And more importantly, if it doesn't happen, will Red Bull be left kicking themselves for not making the call to Nico earlier? Let's talk numbers and performance. Hulkenberg and the Sauber team have been nothing less than catastrophic in the recent 5 races. In fact, they've outscored Red Bull during this time. After a strong double points finish in Austria, Hulkenberg finally notched his first ever podium, his 239th F1 start. The crazy part? He outdid 2 legends, Hamilton and Verstappen. In short, Nico was the fastest non-McLaren driver on the grid that weekend. He fought his way through with precision from P19, making all the correct calls along the way. The kind of performance that left us all thinking, what if Red Bull had taken a different choice for that second seat? Now, looking at Red Bull's lineup, Max Verstappen is, of course, a flawless leader. But even Max cannot do it all on his own, especially when the car's performance starts to drop off. Red Bull's second drivers, Perez, Lawson, Tsunoda, have been struggling to adapt and stay up with Max's dominance. It was less of an issue when Max was cruising to victory in 19 of the 23 races. But now, with the future of Red Bull in question, we're left wondering, did they miss a trick by not signing a more experienced second driver alongside Verstappen? It seems obvious that Carlos Sainz could have been the perfect fit for that role. But the reasons they didn't bring him in are just as clear. Remember that Carlos and Max were teammates at Toro Rosso, and Sainz did not want to be second driver at a top team. He wanted to get a chance to prove himself somewhere else, even if it was taking a gamble with a team like Williams. Now, let us turn our attention to Nico Hulkenberg. When Red Bull made their decisions, maybe he would have considered otherwise. If the opportunity to drive for Red Bull had arisen, he probably wouldn't have said no. And check out this interesting statistic. Hulkenberg has scored 31 points since the Spanish Grand Prix. Verstappen, the runaway leader, has 29. Think about it for a moment. One is driving what is quite possibly the slowest car on the grid, and the other is in a top flight machine, albeit one that has been struggling of late. Now, I'm not comparing Hulkenberg's legacy to Verstappen's. That would be blasphemy. Max is a 4-time world champion and arguably one of the best the sport has ever seen. But even the greatest need strong support. And in this scenario, Nico Hulkenberg could be that perfect second driver for Red Bull. Think back to what Hamilton achieved with Bottas alongside him from 2017 to 2021, barring 2021, of course. In those years, Bottas was a constant presence, rarely missing Q3, scoring 10 victories, and playing a vital strategic role in helping Hamilton extend his dominance. Now, compare the recent years at Red Bull. Have they really had that kind of support for Max? Perhaps 2021 was the exception, when Perez was the perfect wingman. Yet since then, as Max's fight has grown more intense, he's been left to it by himself, often battling McLaren's duo without a lot of assistance. It's among the key reasons Red Bull hasn't been able to contest the championship with the same ferocity Hamilton did in the past. And last but not least, we have the final benchmark. At Silverstone, Hulkenberg was literally one corner away from lapping Tsunoda in a car that's considered by many to be one of the worst on the grid. Yuki, meanwhile, finished dead last, picking up a 10-second penalty for his incident with Bottas. You can't help but ask, does Tsunoda have the grit and potential to make Red Bull see something at this point, or is the opportunity slipping away? Yes, he survived Q1 for the first time in the last 2 races, but at the end of the day, he is still miles off the points. He has only 8 points to his name as a Red Bull driver and is now by far the slowest driver in the Red Bull family. Even though both Racing Bulls drivers retired at Silverstone, Tsunoda still could not catch up and finish last, with no chances of getting himself close to the points. So, where was the first opportunity lost when discussing Hulkenberg being a part of Red Bull in 2020 when the Austrian team were searching for a replacement for Albon? Nico was one of the most prominent contenders. It would have been the perfect time to see him stage a return to the sport in such a victorious way. But at the end of the day, Red Bull believed Perez was the favored option. It was not the wrong one. Let us also not forget how courageous his turkey drive was that didn't let Hamilton gain places, as well as stripping off 8 seconds from the Brits' time in Abu Dhabi's finale. However, when the crunch moment arrived and the car started to evolve in a different direction, Perez couldn't adapt to it. Neither did Lawson nor Tsunoda, and this is where Hulkenberg might have been the better option from a futuristic point of view. But can we see these two as teammates on the grid in any way? There's no doubt Max respects Hulkenberg and was the first driver to congratulate him for his podium both on and off the track in the pit lane. Hulkenberg knows that and has the highest regard for the Dutchman. And if you were to ask Helmut Marko, the answer to this question would be most intriguing. While talking about the lost opportunity of signing Hulkenberg and whether any collaboration is possible in the future, Marko said, "I have to say that Hulkenberg has performed very well since his unexpected return to Formula One. Maybe it's just as well he didn't get the seat alongside Max. We were in negotiation. Then Perez won the race in Bahrain, and that was exactly at the time he wanted to make a decision. That made us choose him. Nico now has a long contract with Audi, and I wouldn't trade that. But there's another very solid reason as to why we should believe the Saab's success is not only based on brilliant strategy and experience from Nico. Jonathan Wheatley, Red Bull sporting director, left the Austrian team amidst all of the internal conflict, and he started his own job with Saba, becoming the team principal of the Swiss outfit. By doing so, he managed to transform a backmarker to a midfield contender in a couple of races, and Hulkenberg claims that his performance will silence a lot of the haters. According to his former teammate Carlos Sainz, it could have been an indirect dig towards Red Bull because the Austrian team did end up overlooking both Sainz and Hulkenberg. And while talking about the maiden podium of Nico, Sainz said, "Honestly, for me, the most impressive fact is that people kept cursing him. That he had no podiums meant nothing to me at all. I was his teammate at the time, and that he had no podium was simply circumstances. So, I'm glad he has this podium now to shut everyone up who questioned him. As for myself, I never questioned him and knew he was one day going to be on the podium. It's clear that Red Bull clearly knows that Nico won't be there in the next period, but it's also clear that they might be learning from their mistakes of pushing youngsters and destroying their careers in a pretty underperforming car. Max is the only one who can be up there with the RB21, at least from the Austrian team's camp, as they're yet to give it to an outsider and see how his performance would be there. Be that as it may, Hulkenberg is on his own trajectory now and has carried Saba up to P6 with his breathtaking performances recently, notching 37 of the 41 points the Swiss team presently possesses. Hulk is at 9th in the Drivers' Championship and ahead of both Racing Bull's drivers and Tsunoda by more points, which is a very bleak fact for Red Bull. They have to figure out the car before they can promote any driver up there. And that's why Hajar's promotion will likely be delayed. The last thing they want to do now is ruin the career of another young and emerging talent in Isaac, and in light of Verstappen's recent comments, we must be looking at what precisely is amiss with the Red Bull from this vantage point. Talking about the performance of the car, Max said, "To be honest, I didn't know what to expect from the race, but it was just very difficult from lap 1 onwards. Very difficult to balance in the car between high speed and low speed. I couldn't really find a good balance. Also, on the intermediate tire, I think we're degrading too much, especially compared to McLaren. They were again on a different level. All of this is showing a very worrying trend for Red Bull. They might have to be satisfied with fighting in the midfield for the remainder of the season. Ferrari is also seems to be catching up on Red Bull and Mercedes, with their upgrades being a good step forward. But with 2026 just around the corner, the question that needs to be answered is, will we see a competitive teammate alongside Max? And more importantly, is the team regretting not signing Nico when they had the chance? What are your thoughts on this entire situation? Let us know in the comments section below. And once you do that, be sure to click on the video that's showing on your screen right now.